This would be a massive mistake, as reports following the trade of Michael Carter II are suggesting that the Eagles could be all set at a particular group on defense, with defensive coordinator Vic Fangio in support of this decision. What is this decision? Well, I'll present it here on Eagles Digest. What's going on, guys? Alex Brooks back here on Eagles Digest to give you guys everything surrounding the Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles are currently on their bye week, so they are getting some much needed rest before their Monday night football game against the Green Bay Packers. So with no game, no preview game to talk about, the trade deadline is next Tuesday, November 4th. So we're going to get you guys all ready for this trade deadline. And there's going to be a lot of different news and everything that came out. Michael Carter got traded yesterday. I did a video on that, so check that out after this one, and we're going to get you all these news and reactions from this trade deadline. But before we get into this video, we're currently at 601 subscribers on the channel. We really appreciate all the support. So if you are watching this video and you are not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? You guys better hit that subscribe button, comment down below. Let me know your thoughts on the Philadelphia Eagles so far, what you guys want to see at this trade deadline, and what you want to see from this Eagles team overall. It is free, so hit the bell so you're notified of all the videos that are coming out. But getting right into this video, as we are talking about Vic Fangio, the defensive coordinator for the Philadelphia Eagles. We know how much Vic Fangio is very blunt in his press conferences regarding the defense. He's very just a no nonsense type of guy. And the Eagles fans, myself, we love how direct he is with this Eagles defense. We know that he, doesn't take crap from anybody. He is going in there and he is going to make sure his team is ready day in and day out. But there was an interesting question that was asked regarding the moves that the Eagles should make at the deadline, and if Vic Fangio was in support of that. And one of the questions is would you want to improve on the defensive end group for the Philadelphia Eagles? And this is what he had to say. He said, "We're in good shape. Point blank period. We're in good shape on the edge rushers." And I definitely think that this is a massive mistake from the Philadelphia Eagles, just based on what we've seen from this Philadelphia Eagles team so far. We look at the depth chart right now. I'll talk a little bit more on Joshua Uche. He has been fantastic for the Philadelphia Eagles, and his PFF stats really back it up. I'll share that in a little bit. But regarding this defensive line, especially from the edge group, they did so well against the Giants. They had their best game of the season against Jackson Dart and getting him on the ground multiple times during that game. But we've seen over this first half of the season that they have not been able to generate a lot of sacks against these top quarterbacks like Baker Mayfield, like Matthew Stafford, like Patrick Mahomes. They were not able to get him on the ground as much as we were expecting them to coming over from last season. So looking at this edge group, you're going to get Nolan Smith back, which is going to be a huge addition to this Eagles defensive line. Might take him a couple games to just get used to the game flow. And then there's Brandon Graham, who's obviously unretiring. Eagles fans are loving that he is trying, just getting back into the swing of things and trying to be an asset for this Eagles team. Not sure what his role is going to be on the defensive line. That's definitely going to be something that Vic Fangio and Brandon Graham are going to have to work through. But regarding this defensive line, I definitely think that the Eagles need to make a big addition, or just an addition in general. I think there's adding another guy to this piece, to this defense, could work wonders for this Philadelphia Eagles team, because you know how much the game changers really affect the playoffs. We know it on offense. We know that during the playoffs last year with A.J. Brown, DeVonta Smith, and Saquon Barkley, they all had an integral part in having a championship banner raised this year for the Philadelphia Eagles, especially Saquon Barkley, with just, blowing the roof off of the place in Lincoln Financial Field during the playoffs. And it was something that was a great sight to see. But we also saw the defense. We saw the defensive line really step up. And one of the guys that really stepped up in the defensive side was Josh Sweat. Josh Sweat had 2 sacks against Patrick Mahomes in the Super Bowl, and he was a really good integral part to this Eagles championship win against the Kansas City Chiefs. Josh Sweat left in free agency. Milton Williams left in free agency. The defensive line, the defensive tackles have really stepped up this year with Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter and Moro Ujoma, but the edge rushers are lacking in that sort of production. So they're going to have to get another guy in here, I believe, to try to make that game-changing play. And, some guys that I am thinking of the Eagles should go after that would transform this defense are these names right here. You look at the top, Trey Hendrickson from the Cincinnati Bengals. He's my number one guy. Number one guy that I think the Eagles should go after, because when he's on the field, he is one of the best defensive ends in the NFL. And having him on the Philadelphia Eagles, that could be huge for just this edge group in general, because you have a focal point on the defensive line. That is something that is very underrated, because when you have a guy like Jalen Carter who can just get to the quarterback on a consistent basis, people are double teaming him. Well, if they have to double team Jalen Carter, then Trey Hendrickson will be open on the edge. If they double team Trey Hendrickson, then someone else is going to be open. So it's just having that focal point on the edge could just be huge at getting pressure, consistent pressure on the quarterback, and can just be a huge asset overall. And then when we're looking at the second one, Max Crosby, he's obviously been thrown in on trade rumors. I don't think that he will be a guy who is going to be traded away from the Raiders. I think that's just some sort of rumor that's happening. I know the Cowboys, the Niners are looking at getting Max Crosby out of Las Vegas, but I definitely think that he's going to stay there. But if he is getting shopped around, I definitely think the Eagles should take a big swing at Max Crosby. Jermaine Johnson, I mentioned it before, the Eagles just got someone with Michael Carter the second to the Philadelphia Eagles from the New York Jets. So why not go back to that well, get Jermaine Johnson and get another defensive piece that can pair with this defensive line. Carl Granderson has been very good. He has 4.5 sacks on the season. Definitely could be a big piece to this Eagles defensive line that could just help out these edge rushers as well. And then Jalen Phillips, he's worked with Vic Fangio in Miami before, so he has that continuity with Vic Fangio, at least for that 2023 season. So he has experience working in that system. So all of those guys definitely think could have big impacts on this Philadelphia Eagles team. I know that there is a lot of different things that are going on with, who are the Eagles going to target? Are they going to target someone on the offensive side of the ball, whether it be an offensive lineman or, another weapon, just like a backup tight end, because I know the Eagles are thin at tight end, but I definitely think they need to be in on one of these guys or an edge rusher in general. I think Arden Key could be a good option for the Philadelphia Eagles as well to get into this room, because they're going to try to look for a difference maker who can make some noise in the playoffs. And, just going a little bit more on Trey Hendrickson, I know that he is dealing with some injuries right now. He definitely has that hip injury that is a little bit of a concern, but he does have the big play potential. We've seen it in Cincinnati. We've seen it in New Orleans early in his career. He has that big play potential, and to be able to go to a team like the Philadelphia Eagles who are looking for a championship, it can only help him trying to get that championship and also play himself into a big contract, whether it be with the Philadelphia Eagles or it be with another team. So it's just about that legacy, and I definitely think Trey Hendrickson would love to go to the Philadelphia Eagles. And, just wanted to kind of comment on this defensive line group, because I know that I've mentioned that, it's not as deep as we would have liked, but the one guy who has really stepped up in this edge group is Joshua Uche. I think he is the number one defensive end on this team right now at this point, because he has been one of the most consistent defensive ends in all of football. When we're looking at his PFF grade, he has an 84 grade on PFF as a defensive end. That's 13th out of 119 edge rushers. That is really good for a guy who was just signed as a 1-year flyer deal, just to kind of 1 year prove it, just someone who's going to provide depth for this Eagles defense. That is looking like a great signing by Howie Roseman in this free agency to get Joshua Uche to this team and make some noise. He had a great game against the New York Giants, and I'm expecting him to really improve on that moving forward. But, just everything overall with this Eagles defense was looking great against the New York Giants. It's all about the consistency, though. It's about getting the guys healthy and getting them to be able to get pressure on the quarterback, because that's the name of the game right there. Josh Sweat has been able to do that throughout his career. The Eagles didn't have to worry about that. But this year it is a gaping hole that the Eagles are trying to fill with different sort of guys. But if you're able to get another edge rusher, because I think one more thing I'll bring up is that the Niners, the Detroit Lions, they are trying to get edge rushers on their team. And I think the biggest regret that the Eagles would have is not going after one of those big meal ticket guys and having him go to an NFC rival, and then you have to face him in the playoffs. I think that's just a backbreaker for this Philadelphia Eagles team if they would have to face a guy like Trey Hendrickson and Aiden Hutchinson in Detroit. It would just be a big letdown by the Philadelphia Eagles front office. I trust Howie. I trust Vic Fangio in being able to get the most out of these guys, but being able to get a meal ticket like Trey Hendrickson or one of these other defensive ends could be fruitful for this Eagles team to get back to the Super Bowl and go back to back. But that's going to do it for another edition of Eagles Digest. Appreciate all the support you guys are giving us on this channel. Before we send it out, just wanted to give this out to you. Who should the Eagles target next at the NFL trade deadline? Comment your thoughts down below. Who do you think the Eagles should target, whether it's a defensive guy or an offensive guy? Hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Let's go Birds and fly, Eagles, fly.